Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar on the opportunities and challenges in the post-COVID era in the field of sales and marketing. At the very outset, while the world is talking about the difficult scenario which COVID has presented, I always tend to look at the silver lining. It is not every day that four such eminent panelists, one of them from London, one from Kolkata, one from Mumbai, and the other one from NCR, we can get them all together at one go. And I must thank each one of you for sparing your valuable time and joining us for this webinar. This webinar from People Labs is an effort to help the present B school students as well as the young managers as they go through the rigors of their early career. This is the fourth of the series. The first three have been very well received, but I must share with you that since anyway 60 to 80% of the jobs on campus are from sales and marketing, this is the webinar which has also seen the maximum attendance. So I'm happy to share that with all of you. Dear audience, I'm happy to introduce all the panelists one by one. So we have Animesh Sinha over here, who's the Chief of Marketing, Automotive and Special Products, Tata Steel. Thank you so much, Animesh, for joining.
Thanks, Subrat.
Yeah. Moving next, we have Abhishek Jain, who's the Chief Manager with Asian Paints, and he has worked across the B2C as well as the retailing initiatives of Asian Paints. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us.
Thanks, Subrat, for calling me. Thank you.
Ridhima, thank you so much for joining us all the way from London. Ridhima is Global Brand Marketing Director with Unilever. Thank you so much, Ridhima.
Pleasure, Subrat.
Last but definitely not the least, we have Sanjay Mohta, who is the VP International Business, Jubilant Foodworks. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Subrat. Thank you.
So without much ado, I will also be sharing the flow of the webinar as we have planned about it. At the very outset, I'll be requesting each of the four esteemed panelists to be sharing their views for 8 to 10 minutes each. Post that, based on whatever they have shared, I have got a couple of questions to ask them on behalf of the participants over here. And then meanwhile, will be collating the questions which the audience will be sharing with the host. And towards the end, we plan to take those questions as well, the limited number. However, before we start, let me give a few disclaimers right away. This entire initiative is a part of People Labs about skill building, and this in no way is related to your placements directly or indirectly. This is not a platform which is to be leveraged for placements, and each of the four panelists are here in their individual capacity. So I will humbly request all the audience to refrain from asking policy related questions, and if at all there are any policy related questions, I will be the one taking those questions and answering on their behalf. So I hope the audience will follow that basic decorum. During the discussion, I will request all the attendees to keep themselves muted and respond whenever there is a next poll, because there are a couple of more polls which we'll be sharing with you time to time. Moving on, may I request our first panelist of the day, Animesh, if you can just share your views on the given topic with everyone out here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Subrat, for giving us the opportunity to connect on this forum. First of all, I hope that all the people who are attending this particular webinar are safe and taking necessary precautions to stay safe looking at this pandemic. These are really extraordinary times, and this pandemic has thrown the world off balance. And the last 2 months especially have been unprecedented for all of us, to say the least. I basically have been working in the manufacturing segment for a very, very long time now. And I don't think, even if you look at the manufacturing sector of India, it has seen such a kind of situation for a very long time. For that matter, if you look at even the steel industry and the company from where I am, Tata Steel, we have been in existence for almost close to more than 100 years. And I don't think we have seen a situation like this where the whole month was almost a kind of a the market was not there. There was hardly any domestic sales which were happening in the month of April. And I think most of the manufacturing segment companies have actually gone through this. Now, what it holds and what are the challenges which this is throwing upon us? To be honest, it is evolving every day, because till now, if you look at the things, every day the virus properties are not only fully known, it's not known, and it is changing. So the policy responses across the world, if you see, will also be more or less, I will rather say it will be uneven, because this is the first time we are dealing with such a big unknown where we don't have a ready-made solution. When we have some financial crisis, when we have some, we had a crisis in 2008, the big financial crisis which happened, the agricultural crisis which happened in India, we had some reference point or the response which was coming from the policy makers, because we had a base for it. We could build upon it. This time, the best, or let's say the nearest one which we know, which has created such a big global impact, was maybe the Spanish flu, which happened in 1920s. So the only certainty, I think, today, what we are seeing is in the attempt which we will make to give some definite forecast. I think that is the only certainty, that the definite forecast which we are going to give are going to fail. Now, what are the big challenges if you see as a manufacturing industry in today's scenario, and also which is resulting in a big challenge for the sales and marketing setup is happening today? So I will rather divide it from the market point of view, first of all. And I think if we can bucket it, I will rather bucket it as three major issues which all the manufacturing companies and more of SMEs and MSMEs will face. First is the labor, then the lenders, and the third is the logistics. And this is going to impact every manufacturing segment, be it small or large. Am I audible? Yeah. So, so today, so all of us know what kind of crisis the whole migrant labor. All of you must be reading everything which is happening, and so many things are happening in the country. Even today, when the companies are operating with, let's say, 10 to 15% of the total capacity, they are struggling with such a thin labor force which is available right now, and with all these migrant laborers, because of the economic hardships which they are going through, are moving back to their respective states. This manufacturing sector will take a lot of time to come back, when they will like to also they will have orders and they will like to go to 100% production. It's not easy to start with to start a factory which has been so labor intensive till now, to come back very fast. Lenders already, if you look at the automotive industry, because of different trends which were happening, last year was a pretty bad year, and with shared mobility, the norms, the government regulations, they were under stress, and it was not a preferred segment last year. And now coming in this year, it is even going to be a bigger challenge. Working capital is a big challenge. The company can be big, the company can be small, but this is a challenge which everybody has to go through. People will have to relook at their net working capitals. They will have to look at their inventory, and all this thing is going to have a big impact on the market where you have to go and you have to sell your product and you have to market your product. Logistics, big issue today. I will give you a personal example. I think a lot of consumer goods which were not considered to be a necessity in the household sector, maybe in the pre-COVID era, like dishwashers. I don't think every middle class family or upper middle class family would have looked at it as an essential. Kind of a vacuum cleaner, people would not have thought that way. But today, I will give you my personal example, because my household help is not coming. These are becoming kind of, I'm looking at these options. Can I buy it? I'm not able to get even through the e-commerce side because logistics is not available. So bigger companies are still having a lower problem. From let's say the steel mills who are big can arrange for some logistics exports, but the smaller people will have further problem where the material out actually has to go. So it's a big issue which is coming up, and I think in the manufacturing segment, the things which are there in terms of sales, in terms of marketing, it's going to undergo a big change. So I will just give you an example. I was reading somewhere regarding the car sales, where I'm talking about car more passionately because I head the automotive sector. So I was reading and discussing with some of the people in Maruti, and they claim that a person who wants to buy a car, and from the thought that he's going to buy a car, and when he ends up buying a car, there are roughly 28 touch points. And out of those 28 touch points, in the post-COVID area, they still feel that they will be able to maybe digitalize roughly close to 16 to 17 touch points. Still, there are some touch points which they don't have a solution for right now, but they are working on it. Things like delivering the car to your home. Can you order it on the e-commerce platform and the car comes to your place? Will you really, if the lockdown is lifted, will you go to the showroom to have a look at the car and get the feel of the car? So people are trying to find out, and all these things actually is very important for a marketer, because how the customer wants, needs, the purchasing decisions, that will evolve over a period of time depending on how this pandemic in future changes course. So let's say if the things are improving, sentiments will improve, maybe things will get better. But if you will have some multiple lockdowns going on, challenges will be even more. So it is very important as today for a marketer or a sales manager to have a look on the things, how they are evolving. So I will give you a scenario for us. We are both in B2B as B2C. Now we are, I will not say these are the trends which have been kind of freezed by us or taken up as a trend which we like to follow, but we are continuously monitoring it. So a big change which we are seeing in B2B, let's say construction segment is like 70% of the is the market where steel goes, and that's the number for across the world. Now, if you look at the construction segment, there are urban areas where these builders are building flats. For them, it is just delivering the flat with the bare minimum requirement, which addresses all the requirements of government. So they will look at how do we get the best deal and try to move down the value chain with all the specs met. But we are seeing a big change in the IHB segment, which is the individual house building segment. Suddenly, surprisingly, we are seeing a lot of pull which is coming from this segment, because I think people have identified that if they are going ahead with the brands which can be trusted, the brands which provide longevity. And I think they are now suddenly looking at it very positively. We are getting a lot of orders, a lot of inquiries on our digital platforms to buy those. One of the things which has also changed because of this pandemic, and it is going to impact both sales and marketing in a big way. And I was reading a joke somewhere. It's a WhatsApp joke which I want to share, and I'm sure most of you would know that I don't think the digital platform in manufacturing, any CIO of any company has been able to push it the way COVID thing has pushed it. So in our company, we were on the path, but to be honest, a lot of people, including youngsters, senior guys, used to ask that we are spending so much of money on this digitalization of the whole marketing and sales platform. Is it really required? Trust me, everybody is thankful today that we are in that position, and we have invested so much of money in the last 2-3 years and getting on the platform. So we did not face any challenges moving there. And I think that's going to be the norm going forward. I seriously feel this social distancing thing is going to stay there for some time. And a lot of pressure which is coming on cost sustenance. It's a big opportunity for the marketing and sales guys to look and work in a new and evolved fashion. It's not going to be the same world going forward. So travel time. There is a lot of things which I think personally that if you will see will impact how the marketing and sales roles and how the marketing and sales people or companies are going to handle. So in future, capability to handle scenario planning would become even more relevant than to handle set business plans, which was the norm of the day today. People used to make an annual business plan, used to follow that. And after achieving it, people used to feel very happy. But I don't think that is going to be the situation, at least for the next 2-3 years, even after this pandemic is over. This is going to be the new skill which we are, or anybody is going to look at, and the guys who have the skill will actually really progress well. Cost of labor in India. Now, this was considered as a natural advantage to India, and that is likely to shoot up in the current scenario. And it's important also, as a policy maker, as the people of the country, we need to understand the kind of impact the whole thing has had on the labor class. It's they were the most impacted people in the country. They have gone back, and I think a lot of reaction will come in terms of they will like to stay there even if they are not earning that much money, but they will like to stay safe. So the cost of capital, the cost of labor is going up, and I think that is going to have a big impact on the manufacturing segment. They will have to look at the ways in which they can reduce the cost on a different front rather than pushing the labor cost down. Companies, besides the precautions they are going to take, I think going forward, because of I think in the Maslow hierarchy, also the health and wellness of people is going high up. And every company will have to spend more on the health and wellness of employees now going forward. So these are the cost structures which are anyways going to hit. But I think this is a big challenge for all the and I'm especially talking about the sales guys, because they are the guys, and the sales and marketing guys they are the guys who are going to get the revenue out of the market for the company. So individual capacity index would change in the post-COVID area scenario. Handling multiple customers, multiple channels, multiple products will become like people who can do all these things will have an edge. Companies will also have to invest in building such capabilities, and you have a lot of time. There is a lot of time, you will say, which will be saved in terms of travel. We as sales guys, if you look today, and because it is more of face-to-face meetings, we will actually realize that a average sales guy spends roughly 30% of the time on the road. And now with the social distancing norm becoming the order of the day, and people actually preferring the digital media of interactions, maybe the travel time will cut down by close to 30 to 40% what they normally travel for. So the productivity of employee can go up, and the time saved can be used to upskill and learn these skills. You should be good at the scenario planning aspect. You should try, and the businesses which you want to handle, let's say if you want to for example, if somebody is interested in automotive, you should use this time to develop sound knowledge of the client business where you want to work in future, and upskill your qualities what you have. I think it's a very important thing to do, and we should definitely try to do that. So also if I may say,
Animesh.
yeah,
Sorry to
so
interrupt. Yeah.
also if I see the things where it is happening, different industries will have a different kind of impact which is going to be there. And so let's say if you are in auto manufacturing, travel sector, you are getting to be impacted even more. But there are a lot of other opportunities also which are coming up, and it's very important as a sales guy, as a marketer, to keep on doing the micro segmentation and targeting those new segments and identifying them where the business potential is there. So like we never realized maybe 6 months back that we will be playing an important role in the segments like hospital beds and ventilators. And we are very hopeful that with this going forward, the demand we are anticipating, the school buses demand will go up. So as a marketer, we have to keep on thinking what next is going to come up. And we have to keep on devising a solution. How do we address that market going forward? And I think the point which I was making some time back, that how customer expectations and decision making is going to evolve, and how do the marketer and the sales guy actually adapt to it, will make all the difference which is going forward. So just to share one example, and it will take hardly 30 seconds. And I was sharing it. This is something which we do as a company. So in the construction segment, we connect with masons. We have close to 3,000 masons which are on board with us. And we never realized it will be such a big help to them. And this is something which we are doing for the past 2 years. These guys actually, these are the guys who are influencers for selling anything in steel in the construction segment. All these 3,000 masons which are on Tata platform, we have insured them. We have insured them for health, and that cost is borne by Tata Steel in terms of taking care of them. We never thought that they will be so thankful to it in this time when actually they require it, and they at least feel that there is something to fall back on. So the kind of social impact also it creates on people, and a lot of things which you don't realize when you are doing, but when such a crisis hits you, you really realize the way the messages which are coming. It's sometimes actually eye-moistening. We really get emotional when we see those messages. So it's important that we keep the work going on for the society, as well as we keep on upskilling ourselves to address the challenging market. And you guys, the youngsters, you are much better equipped, I think, in terms of the digital. I have struggled to get on a Skype also, and on this Zoom call also I was discussing with Subrat because I was struggling a bit. But you guys at least are on the digital platform one level above us, so that's definitely a plus to start with. So I really wish all the best to all the guys who are attending, and wish that the people who are coming to the market
No.
can do really well.
Animesh, we will give you time to wish them all the best. We will come back to you. You cannot sign off like this.
No, I'm not signing off.
Right.
So
I think
so that's
yeah, I think one of the key things which Animesh shared, if you ask my own perspective, I'll be taking away two things. One is about digitalizing the maximum number of touch points, wherein he shared the automobile sector example. Thing which a lot of people I generally spoke with from industry, they are sharing, and I will just quote, in FMCG earlier, I'm talking about around 10 years ago, it used to be last year, and this year. That is how it used to be. Telecom changed it completely. So a friend of mine from telecom used to say, it's about yesterday, day before yesterday, and today. And I think that has become, it is prevalent across all the industries today. Because sitting in London, Ridhima does not know what is going to be the lockdown scenario across the globe. And she has to be ready for those, scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, scenario 4. So these were two key takeaways from me. And thank you for sharing the B2B aspect, which is there. The point of influencer was also a great insight for many of us. Now let's take a diametrically different view from a hardcore B2B. Let's move to B2C. And Ridhima, if I may request you to share your perspectives about the changes happening in the B2C space. Also, over to you.
Thank you, Subrat, and thanks, Animesh. I've known Animesh for a very long time, and he continues to inspire and educate me. So thank you so much for that, Animesh. So like most marketers, I'm going to use, or at least most marketers who are not prepared, I'm going to use visual aids. Tell me if you can see my screen. It's basically, Subrat, can you see the screen?
It's there, Ridhima. It's good.
Okay, great. So first of all, I think like Animesh said, that this is unprecedented times. I mean, in our lifetime, at least, we have always had some reference point. There have been market crashes, there have been recessions, there have been unprecedented events like 9/11, but we've always had a reference point where we could have gone back and we could have said that, okay, the last time that this happened, people reacted this way and this worked and this didn't work. And that's why we say that learning of history is very important. For the first time, at least in my lifetime, we are living in history. We all remember the first time we heard about lockdown. We'll all remember how we reacted to it. And therefore, the way I'm going to talk about this is starting with how is it impacting us as humans, then going to how can brands react to the human crisis that we are facing. And then the third is that how can we upskill ourselves as marketers, or what can we do for ourselves? So jumping right into it, I think if you see the curve of how this crisis has played out and will continue to play out, there was this period of uncertain indifference. Even and in my role as a global marketer, I have the chance of talking to people in different countries. And even in China, where this started and where this was really at disastrous levels, even in the beginning of February, people didn't realize how big this is going to be. So there was this indifference. People were traveling, people were thinking, this is not going to impact me. We are in a stage where we are all, for various reasons, we are anxious. We are anxious if this is going to impact our health. Animesh very kindly started with asking about your health. And to be honest, that's the first question that we've started asking each other. The second is that we are anxious on how this will impact our lives. Will we have the same jobs? Are the jobs going to change? And the third thing that we are anxious about is that, are we managing these germs properly? Like, there are somehow all the people that I speak with, especially people who are in charge of families, they start thinking about, oh, how much do I need to clean? Do I need to do this to manage germs? Do I need to clean my food? And then there is a period of the new normal. And none of us, no policymakers, nobody can predict with certainty what this new normal can be. But that is where we can prepare ourselves and say that, what are the things that are going to change? Like Animesh said that it's possible that social distancing, masks, etc. are going to be the new normal. So how can we prepare ourselves as marketeers for this new normal? So first, talking about what can brands do. And this is a framework that I have personally used when this started. And because suddenly we were faced with this challenge of the consumer needs completely changing. And the thing with FMCG is that it is fast moving, but it is also here and now. It is, if you were buying groceries, your grocery needs are going to change immediately. We all saw that people went, when they heard about the lockdown, what we are calling as the stockpiling started to happen, because everybody wanted to keep supplies for 2 months. So in this era of anxiety, in this era of uncertainty, the first thing that brands can do is to be authentic. There are no marks for class participation here. I know that in MBA colleges, we used to get marks for class participation, but here actually, if you do wrong class participation, there are negative marks. The second is, we know and we can empathize with the fact that people are facing a completely different time. And as humans, we don't know how to react. So can we as brands be useful to them? And can we do something which is going to make an impact on their lives? And finally, something which is very simple and which is something that we expect will take care of its own, is that be present. I mean, Animesh was talking about logistics, and the point is that we also need to make sure that we are available and we are present when marketers, when consumers are looking for our products. So I'll quickly give you a few examples of what I saw, and this is my personal view of what brands have done well. So when we talk about being authentic, I think for me, the first penny drop was when Nike came out with this ad. And the reason why I loved this so much was because Nike has always stood for pushing your boundaries, going out and playing, doing the best that you can do. Suddenly, they were faced with this challenge where people are actually not going out and playing. So how can we own this space and, without being different to what we've been saying, start still talking about achieving your dreams, start still talking about playing for millions, but doing it in a very COVID era way? The reason why I call it being authentic is that if you take that little tick mark from there and place any other shoe brand, it's not going to work. Nike and only Nike can talk about this in this way, and only they have the right to speak in this tone. And any other brand doing this would be class participation. So be authentic, be real to yourself. And if you don't have anything to say, don't say it. That's absolutely fine. The second is being useful. We know that people have a lot of times on their hands. I work in the cleaning segment, and suddenly people are asking, how can I clean my hands better? Am I doing this right? And you must have seen all the videos of how to clean your hands well, all the celebrities coming up and talking about that. How can I clean my home better? How can I clean my clothes better, and so on. But there is also this aspect of people having a lot of time on their hands. And there is this one example that I've selected of Heinz giving the world's slowest puzzle. I would hate to do that even if I had all the time in the world, but clearly some people loved this puzzle. TikTok has become something which a lot of us are spending our times on. My family WhatsApp group is filled with TikTok videos. I don't know if that's happening to you. Another interesting example, I don't know if you've heard this, but this is, my family is a family of gamers, and we've always connected over Ludo. And I don't know if you've heard of Ludo King, but it's one guy in Vashi who had started this app called Ludo King, and now he has 65 million daily users across the world. He's with 3 employees. So you need to be useful. You need to make sure, again, I'm referring to what Animesh said, make sure that what does your consumer need? And some of these things don't change whether you're in B2B or B2C. Where are they? What do they need? And can I be there to provide them something? And finally, be present. I'm sure as we were going and shopping on Amazon, a lot of us saw this message of being out of stocks. The reason why marketers, and this is a lot to our sales and supply chain colleagues, but the reason why I think this is the core job of marketers is because you need to make sure that you are advertising something that is useful and meaningful, but also available. It happened to me a lot that I saw this digital advertising of something and I was like, yes, I want it. And then when I clicked on shop now, it was unavailable on Amazon. So this is where the communication aspect meets the business aspect. And you need to make sure that you're doing both together. You're not, advertising something which cannot be available or it's not useful. So this is business 101, but I have to admit that many people and many companies kind of missed it for the right, understandable reasons during this era. So we've spoken about what are humans and consumers going through. We've spoken about what can brands do and what some of the brands are doing well. And now let's talk about what can we as marketers do. And I believe that marketing is a combination of skills and partly it is an art. So first of all, for those who have worked in this industry, irrespective of which industry you've been a marketer in, you will all relate to the fact that everybody believes that they can do your job. And the job that they can do is the art part of the job. The skills part still exists. And my personal view is that skills are not going to suddenly change. Just the expectation of you having that skill is going to suddenly go up. So a few things that I've put down, which I'm sure all of you are building. One is data literacy. Information is going to now decide the fourth era of industrialization. Coal was the last one, which was energy. Information is going to be the next one. So we as marketers need to know how to collect data, how to use it as a tool, and then how to use that to give all of the other things that I spoke about. And now the amount of data that is available, there is no limit to that. You think of what you want to know and you will be able to find out. You can choose to be the person who finds out that, and you can be the data specialist within the marketing function, or you can choose to be the person who uses that information and then deploys it. I'll not talk much about digital marketing. I think we all know it, but that is going to shift and become much more important. And finally, business acumen, which is, its marketing is not just about communication. It is about owning a business. Animesh explained it really, really well. It is about knowing and understanding what's happening outside, and then making your response happen, the scenario planning, saying that how am I going to respond to this? All of it comes under business acumen. And these are the skills that you can learn. Take the time that we have now, do online courses. Many of the online universities have made their online courses free. Please use this opportunity to do those courses. Even if you don't pay for the certificate, do the courses. They are super interesting and they're super useful. Do the courses that you like to do. I know that nobody wants to go back to studying, or very few people do, but do the courses that you like to do and where your interest lies, and do it at your own time, but build these skills. You need to be, Sundar Pichai said that the only thing that will remain true from now and in the future is constant learning. So please continue to learn. Then comes the art, and this is practice. This is not, nobody can sit you down and teach empathy, but you have to constantly ask yourself that, am I putting myself in the shoes of the consumer, in the shoes of my colleague? Yes, so I just have 30 more seconds to go. So, and am I really understanding what they are going through? And this is internal to your organization and external to your consumer, client, customer. Second is agility. Things are now going to change every other day. What Subrat said was never ever true more, which is that at best I can predict tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be able to predict 2 years down the line, but we need to do that, and we need to constantly change ourselves and be agile in the way we work. And finally, insight. Keep your ear to the ground, keep listening to what people are saying, and then start building and saying that, oh, so if people have time on their hands, they are going to use entertainment more. And therefore, if I am Netflix, I should put out much more entertainment content. I don't know how many of you are into Tiger King, but people binged on Tiger King and all of those content that came on, and that's insight. So that is what I have to say. Remember, these times will not last. These will impact our lifetime. I know they are impacting many of us in a way that we didn't expect, and it is impacting human beings in a way that I wish was not true. But please stay positive. This is not going to last, and hopefully we'll come out as better people, better humans, and a better planet at the end of this. So with that, back to you, Subrat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ridhima. In fact, couple of, in fact, if I have to pick 3 points from what you shared, I am reminded that American Express India head, I'm talking about some 3-4 years ago, he once shared that while the cost of data is going down to 0, the cost of insight is going up to infinity.
Exactly.
and I don't think it is more relevant than in the present times which we are talking about. Second, I also completely echo and resonate the sentiment when you talked about being authentic. A lot of brands, and it's a coincidence that almost everyone on the panel represents one of those brands which have been known in their industry for being, authentic. It is like, even when you are going through tough times, your customers appreciate it. That they say that, okay, even if there is something It may be a genuine problem. It is not something which they are trying to cheat customers or get the maximum out of them. You also touched upon the point of upskilling, which is extremely important for students. But the unfortunate part is I interact with students a little too closely. So I will also take this opportunity to share with them that please do genuine upskilling courses and do not do courses just for the heck of putting that on your LinkedIn profile that I have done this certification, whereas you do not know anything about it. These are the 3 bits I picked from the valuable insight which you shared. And you also talked about that there is no precedent. But I can tell you an interesting anecdote because Abhishek is from Asian Paints, and the only company I ever worked for before I started People Labs was Asian Paints. We go back to 2009, and Asian Paints had given 110% bonus to all its employees. We come to 2020, and Asian Paints has increased the salary of its employees. So there is some parallel, some common connection. And on that note, Abhishek, if you can share your views on how the things are changing and what are the skill sets you look forward to becoming more important.
Sure. Thanks, Subrat and Ridhima. Some of the points you made were absolutely bang on, and I will initially just build on that. What I think initially what I will start with is that as a marketer, I think one of the first thing, even as a sales professional or as a marketing professional, what we always need to do first is that we need to understand humans. We need to understand various personalities. That is an innate part of our jobs, and that makes it successful, makes us successful at whatever we do in our respective organizations. And then obviously when you understand them, we need to generate actionable insights out of them and implement them in a business scenario and for taking forward the business. I think some of the points may get repeated from what Ridhima pointed out. As a marketer, I think it is extremely important when we say that we need to understand humans, we need to understand personalities. Then it is also flows from that at this unprecedented time where the human tragedy is far bigger than any business tragedy, we need to always keep in mind that we need to be empathetic. We need to avoid reaching out to consumer if there is nothing new to say. Don't add to the clutter is extremely important. Just because I have a TV film ready or I have an ad creative ready, which I couldn't launch because of COVID, it doesn't mean that it's a good time to do that, because there are a lot of people consuming digital medium at this stage. Mass mailing everyone saying that, okay, I hope you are staying safe, doesn't work. It all goes to spam. We all get irritated. So the point I'm trying to make is that don't try to communicate to consumer if you don't have anything meaningful for them or relevant to them. Otherwise, stay out of mind. It is okay to stay out of mind and out of sight for 60, 80, 90, 100 days. All the larger brands are big enough and they have enough tools to come back in the consumer's mind. Again, do not sell them, try to sell them, that is not relevant. I have seen that happening. Many companies are, because of the way the context is, try to pitch their product which is remotely maybe linked to the current situation, but it is right now not the right time to do that. Be empathetic, be engaging, more importantly, because that is where the consumer actually is suffering. That there is an oversaturation of the news, there is an oversaturation of what they are getting in their feeds. It is very important to break the clutter and help consumer through this tough time by engaging them. Now, one of the examples that I definitely liked is in this context was one of the things that Portugal Travel Board, I think they were Portugal Travel Board, did. They released a film about the entire country and how and it depicted beautiful locales, and they actually said that don't come here. All this enjoy from the home, but stay at home, and this is the best time to stay at home so that you can enjoy this. I think that for me summed up whoever was behind the scenes in creating that film. He was an excellent marketer. He knew how to reach out to the consumer in a way which doesn't compromise the brand. In fact, it elevates the entire proposition about coming to that country in a different manner. Coming to Asian Paints itself, just one example, one of the films that we released in April beginning, and then we had a follow-up in May beginning as well, was a digital film that Piyush Pandey himself made for us. And it's a long relationship that we Asian Paints has with Piyush Pandey. And so it was all about how people are spending time at their home and depicting those moments and connecting how the connect to the house and it becoming a home for many of us who don't stay for long. So I think that is the emotional connect we try to depict in those films. We didn't try to sell anything. We didn't try to portray that we are trying to help you, because we can't. A paint company cannot help anyone in managing a COVID situation. That's a reality. But yeah, because emotional connect to the home is a plan that is something we have been talking about for the last 20 years now, and Subrat would know. So we felt that it is still an opportunity to engage consumer, get consumer to bring out their innate connect to the family members and get them to engage with the brand. I think to sum it up, I think we all need to remember that people and all of us as a consumer, including us, will remember how each of us were in this period. We will never forget how the brand, or at a personal level, how all of us treated each other. So I think that is something that because each brand is a persona, is a person in itself in a way. That is something we all as a marketer need to be conscious of and something that we need to see how we handle that. Going forward from the point of view of a lot of you who are getting into the career, who are at the early stages of their career, I am assuming, I think challenge is extremely high. In fact, for people like us who have spent 13, 14 years in the industry, we have a challenge to be flexible and adapt to a new normal. So I am sure the challenge is huge for all of you. There is a lot of negativity around. There is a lot of pessimism around as to daily we are talking about job cuts, salary cuts. We are talking about a lot of businesses not making money, and which is a right scenario to say. But I think it is very important for all of you to cut through the clutter as well. I think it will be important when you are planning for your own career at this stage. I think it is important to process the information and try to structure what are the opportunities that might come, or what are the categories which may not be a great career path at this stage. The way I see it, and it's a very broad bucketing that I'm doing, I think the way I'll bucket the entire product categories and companies into will be in 4 buckets. One, typical large organization, MNCs, biggies in their own space. Riddhima represents one, maybe I represent one. Jubilant FoodWorks, Tata, all these are traditionally big companies. They are strong companies in their own right. Most of them are in consumer goods space. Now here, these companies are largely impacted from a very short-term problems. It's not like the consumer for their products is going away. For a grocery or for a vegetable type of a consumer or a company, it is not like that the consumer is shifting away because of COVID. Yes, there are short-term problems with respect to logistics. The channel of sales might have shifted from a retail shop to a online channel. Or, for example, in Bombay, for example, RWA are playing a critical role in connecting with the companies directly and ensuring that the sales is happening, both for the consumer's benefit as well as for companies' benefit. So some of these things are happening, but at the end of the day, you know that these are some of the companies and product categories where there will be no large impact. It is more about which channel will contribute to where, to what, and where the consumer shift will happen in terms of buying. Transactions need to be made easier for some of these categories, which means that typically changes in the business model for these companies will be toward making it easier for a consumer to buy with minimal contacts and minimal efforts. especially critical for high frequency category like FMCG, phones, appliances. Some of these are categories which don't require you to actually go to a retail shop, and largely these companies will can manage well. These categories can be managed well by shifting the channel. So this is extremely important, that there is one bucket wherein if we can try and populate this bucket as to which are the companies which are there. I expect these companies to ride out the storm because it's a short-term disruptions. There will be obviously some change in the business model, but business largely will come back to normal, and there will be certain regular cash flows happening. Finances will be taken care of, and I don't see a large impact. Second bucket which I would like to mention is that industries or categories which are significantly impacted from a short-term to medium-term point of view. Now these are the companies or categories where consumer behavior has significantly altered because of whatever that COVID has brought itself with. For example, hospitality, business travel, your training programs. A lot of companies are in training programs. Coaching classes is one. Restaurant, we are all talking about that, how the way the finance or the entire business model of restaurant works. It cannot be feasible below a certain number of cover seats. Now, if that, because of social distancing, is not happening, those restaurants will go out of business. So apparel retailing, for example, I personally feel will undergo a lot of change from a short-term to medium-term point of view before the confidence comes back of people going out and trying. And if people are not able to go out and try because of contagion effect threat, then they will obviously go for e-com. So some of these categories are there where huge significant impact is going to come. Having said that, there is a contrarian view also which is available. I think in China, once Wuhan virus withdrew and markets opened up, people saw a huge spike in the retail footfalls. Similarly, today I was reading that there is some cruise company which is seeing record bookings from August onwards. So there is a contrarian view also that many consumers, because they are locked up, they also might want to indulge in a lot of spending. So how it pans out is something that we will see. But yeah, so this is one category which is going to be severely impacted, and it will be good if you can recognize those companies and categories and try to slot who are not the best employers as of going ahead for the next 6 months to 1 year. To be honest, paint is one such category which I will bucket as a somewhere between 0.1 and 0.2, because I don't see painting as an essential service, and because of the fact that painters have to come to your house, so obviously there will be a short to medium term kind of an impact on the sale of the paint. So yeah. Third category I would say is that of those companies or / categories which will benefit greatly because of COVID. For example, I personally feel automobile business will see a huge revival, as Animesh was also pointing out. While the buying process might undergo a bit of shift, but because shared mobility will go off, a lot of two-wheeler are expected to sell well. E-com, obviously we know that food delivery as a business, dishwasher, vacuum cleaners, online education is seeing a huge boom. I was speaking to a couple of my friends in some of these companies, and the kind of work they have been able to accomplish in the last 2 months, they were struggling for the last 5 years in terms of breaking through some of those schools. So that is also some of the categories which are doing extremely well because of COVID. I was speaking to someone in Dunzo yesterday, and suddenly the company is actually looking very positively about for the next 5 years because they are seeing a viable business model on. A lot of work from home related products will fly off the shelf as soon as non-essentials open up. So it will be good if you can also categorize this as a category, because I think it will be very important to recognize these businesses where next set of growth for the next 1 year is going to come because of the changed consumer behavior. I also see a fourth category where there is not much change going to happen, in my opinion. Now, obviously, while the time will tell, but for a category like furniture or a home decor.
Nimesh, Abhishek, last minute, if you may wrap up, please.
Sure.
Last minute.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
So some of these category I personally feel that will not undergo much change because these are high value items, and consumers will still go out and check out in the retail shops and try to and buy before and check out before buying. Obviously, in this entire categorization, I have not factored in some of the macro factor, government stimulus impacting some of the categories, some of the industries, overall reason or intent to spend. Also, there can be a lot of shift in manufacturing to India, and so on and so forth. Some of those will also continue. Now, one important point that Ridhima touched upon, and I will just close my time with that point, is that there's a set of basic personal skills that never go out of relevance. Whether there is a COVID or no COVID, whether you are going to any of the company in sales or marketing role, some of the skills which definitely are a must are problem solving. How do you help reinvent the way selling is being done or the product is being marketed? Street smartness, business awareness, again something that Ridhima also touched upon. Critical thinking and analytical thinking is the topmost quality because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of clutter. How are you able to process that information to reach to your conclusion and able to take decisions based on that? And communication skills. Communication skills becomes all the more important because, as Ridhima also said, the travel will reduce. You are going to work remotely. You are interacting with your consumers remotely or your selling partners remotely. So how are you able to leverage your communication skills becomes all the more important. So one last point before I close. It is extremely important that we all do a critical self-assessment on for all of us on these skills. Whether using online tools, whether talking to your batchmate, whether talking to a senior who knows you, critically evaluate you. These are some basic life skills, personality skills which are required for success in any company. And then find out ways how you can improve them, whether it's an online course, whether you can approach a alumni or approach a industry mentor and try to help you out in developing those skills in whatever time frame you have. You need to hone them, and if you are able to demonstrate these skills in your interview or whatever one opportunity that you get, I think you are through. So this is what I'll close with.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Sanjay, before I come to you, Prapti, can we have the poll number 2? If we can have the poll number 2, Prapti.
Sure. So I think we can close the poll now.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So the question for second poll was which of the following sectors will see maximum growth in next 6 to 8 months. So I think it's hands down e-commerce is what everybody believes that will actually see maximum growth. I think that also assumes one that the good times are to follow the norm. Probably we are once again the lockdown is going to be lifted soon. So that's where we are, Subrat.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Sanjay, before I come to you, just a couple of things from my end. You know, we have received a lot of questions and I'm just summing them up. You know, there have been a lot of questions about skills and skills required for the MBA graduates. They have been worded in different manners. So before I come to you, a quick rapid fire question to all the 4 panelists over here. If you have to pick 2 skills for sales and marketing students and professionals, young professionals, what would those 2 skills will be whom you think will help them move ahead in the career? Sanjay, I start with you. 2 skills for sales and marketing professionals which will help them in the new normal.
Top 2? Okay. So I think one skill that
Top 2 skills.
really, I think one skill that really becomes important in today's time is a soft skill, which is adaptability, because the times are changing, the times will continue to change. So I think the adaptability, the ability to think on their feet is something which becomes very, very important at this point of time. And the second, of course, is something that previous panelists touched upon, is digital marketing, or various ways to reach out to the consumer. And this generation, as Animesh also said, probably has a head start anyways on this particular skill, but I think it becomes much more relevant and important given this disruptive change.
All right. Animesh, I hope you are still there with us. 2 top skills as per you.
Yeah, so I'm there. And I agree for the first skill, of course, which I think Sanjay has very rightly pointed out. That's the adaptability part of it, and which is a very, very important skill to have. And on the second thing, I have a similar opinion. I will rather broaden it a bit, and I will expect the people to look at from the productivity point of view. And when I talk about productivity, it's about how more productive you can be in terms of taking the load, and that will define how well you can handle the challenges of future. So it one of the aspects of it is, of course, the digital readiness which is there. Right. But ability to take more load, how can you learn, keep on learning new skills, everything will matter.
Abhishek, the top 2 skills.
I'll pick up 2 skills. One is critical thinking, and the other is analytical thinking, because I personally feel if you have these 2 skills, rest of this success follows. Now, these are also the 2 of the skills which, especially people who are doing their internships or who are still yet to find a job but have some time on their hand. It is not something that can be acquired immediately, but requires constant work. It also comes with experience. So what I can suggest is that these 2 are the skills which people can work on by understanding what are the business models, how companies are operating, reaching out to seniors, alumni, industry people, and trying to understand how companies think, how actually business decisions are made, and what goes on behind making those decisions. So yeah,
So I think I agree with all of the guys. I think the first one I'll say is about being flexible, agile, thinking on your feet. So all of that comes on how do you approach the business. The second is business acumen, problem solving, critical thinking, which is again about being able to function in this critical or unprecedented time. Since I'm repeating the first 2, I'll add a third, which is, I think, super important, and which differentiates a marketer from any other function, is bringing your best self to work. In fact, in Unilever, this is one thing that we actually track, which is if you are not happy, if you don't enjoy your work, you can't do good work. It's not the case, and no offense meant for anybody, but a finance or a supply chain guy, because their jobs don't require them to be, happy. Even if you're not happy, even if you're not enjoying it, you will still do the job. But for a marketer, you can only do your job if you're happy and if you're liking it. So leave all the worries aside, and I see a lot of worries in this thing. But when you go to work, try and find things that you enjoy.
Sure. Thank you so much. And Sanjay, just again, couple of points. One, on behalf of all the panelists, let me give you a disclaimer. We are normal people who have got our own limitations. So some of you have asked the questions like, how can I make the most out of the 10,000 crore SME scheme which the Indian government has announced? I humbly submit on behalf of everyone. We are not experts to give you answers to that, so please do not feel bad. And a lot of you have been, also asking about the recording of this specific session. I think, Prapti, we have some provision about it. If you can just share. And Sanjay, then I come quickly to you. I'm sorry for this.
Yes. So whenever the recording of the sessions or even the previous webinars goes live, we always update that on Instagram and our LinkedIn account. So you can always stay connected with People Labs on LinkedIn and Insta both. So that whenever next webinar comes up or the last webinar recording goes live or up on our YouTube channel, you're always connected. Thank you.
All right. Sanjay, over to you for your initial views, please.
Yeah. So I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
First of all, a very big thank you to People Labs for this opportunity. It is always a pleasure to interact on one hand with such an esteemed panel, and on the other hand, such young minds. As someone who's coming last, I actually have two challenges in front of me. It's a dual challenge. The first, of course, is the burden of expectation after coming such esteemed, such clear thought speakers. And of course, I have to fight, I guess, impatience of all of us, because some of you have specific questions in mind and you would like answers to those. So I appreciate those challenges. But let me start, first of all, on a very positive and reassuring note, which is difficult in today's times. What is the positive and reassuring note I'm talking about? I think in today's times, sales and marketing becomes even more relevant and even more important than the earlier times. Since most of us on the call are concerned with that, let me start with that reassurance. Why do I say that? In today's time, of course, sales is what brings revenue. Today, cash conservation is important. All the companies are doing that. Animesh actually touched upon it briefly. So cash conservation is important, and cash generation is precious. And this is the department that works behind cash generation. Yeah. So I think it's becoming even more relevant. Coming to other thing, if you look at a marketeer, of course, today the way the consumer is going to behave, or today the way the consumer is going to, we keep doing these market researches, this consumer researches. The data that is going to come in this time is going to be a gold mine. So, and hence the importance of marketing also further rises, because we need to understand this particular behavior of consumer in great detail. Why do I say that? Somebody mentioned once in a lifetime, challenge. It's also a once in a lifetime opportunity. And this particular consumer behavior is what is going to define the new normal, the real buzzword of today. And I think it's going to be very, very important as sales and marketeers. The burden lies on us to do that. Already quite a few things have been talked about. There have been many things like labor, liquidity, cost basis, upskilling, need to be authentic. All these things have already been talked about. So I won't repeat all of them. Let me try to focus on one or two points which I think are interesting and possibly haven't been touched before. I want to talk about two things. One is few new consumer segments which can emerge out of this crisis, or few erstwhile small segments which can become big because of this crisis. So there is a changing consumer landscape that all the marketeers are going to face. And what do I talk about? The first segment, it's not in the order of size, but in the order of, the first segment that I want to talk about is, so this particular lockdown, this unnatural pause in our lives, has really made us think. So there is a new, not a new, but a erstwhile segment which is becoming much bigger. People are now thinking, I will buy only what I need. So that segment, let's call them minimalist. That's becoming a segment in itself. But more and more people we are questioning ourselves, our needs, and we are thinking that do we also need so much, which goes counter to how businesses grow. Businesses grow by a constant wheel in motion of the same need over and over again. But what do I mean? Having said that, the minimalist is also changing. Earlier, possibly food, shelter, cloth was minimalist, right? But today, maybe even hand sanitizers come in essential commodities. Something which was, I think 6 months back, it was a luxury, it was a niche segment. And in some cases, if you go to a small town, it was even a show off to carry a sanitizer around. But today it's become essential. So even the minimalist needs hand sanitizer, so to say. So that's what I mean. So people are going to think differently. Even that person is going to think differently. The second segment being conservationalist, which is cares about the environment, because a lot of people are saying this is nature's way to come back to us. Nature is healing in this lockdown, so on and so forth, right? So the conservationalist who wants products to last longer, things to be close to environment, becomes somebody who's even more passionate about his or her cause than earlier. So that becomes a segment where consumers can touch them emotionally. The third thing, I think Abhishek talked about it, is something which, for example, China saw, is a revenge buyer. And this is a very interesting segment. This is a revenge buyer. You have paused my life for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and I want to go out and splurge. I want to go out and revenge buy. These people are looking for newer experiences. These people sometimes are looking for quicker deals. These people are looking to be the rebel in the line. You know, the people who wake up in the midnight to go outside and queue an Apple store today will possibly go outside and queue outside a restaurant before it opens, simply because I have not done it for such a long time. So the revenge buying is going to become a segment, and possibly in a short term, that is something that that presents itself. I'm not talking about the traditional segments intentionally. I'm only talking about something which I think is new that has come up, right? Then the fourth kind of people possibly are the balancers. You know, why do I say balancers? I think all of us have realized that the importance of balancing this work life far more when we are all sitting at home and working. So I think we are all appreciating the jobs of home, the jobs in the office. Erstwhile it was not there. Now with maids not being there, I understand what does it take to run a house, right? So I think the balancer who really wants to balance work, life, leisure, pleasure, luxury, all the things in some amount, and this has given us time to think. That is another possibly a consumer segment that would, you know, emerge. And all these segments are going to become large enough possibly for brands to play to those you know, spaces, to be able to position themselves in those spaces and to be able to offer themselves in those spaces. Some of this is a short-term opportunity, but the engagement can be far more deeper. When you really appeal to something that the consumer is thinking about, the association is far more deeper, and probably the association will remain for longer. You know, so that is some interesting consumer bits or consumer trends that I think are coming. I'm trying to keep it short. So the other thing that I want to talk about is, of course, because I head international business for a company, is something I want to talk about is, so there is a exaggeration or a fear going around that are we entering into an era of deglobalization, with our own prime minister talking about Atmanirbharta, local ke liye vocal, and countries like USA, countries like Japan have gone ahead and said that they are going to really support people who support local businesses, right? The companies would be only local and public will only buy that. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on that a little bit, because I think it's something that's probably had not been touched upon. So I think growth in 80s and 1990s and 1980s came with globalization, right? 2010 to 20 was something called as, I read an article and it was talking about it as a slowbalization, which means a very slow globalization. Slowly, what we are moving to is, right now, the thought of the countries is import substitution. So these are two different things. It's not deglobalization. It is not a discouragement to the multinational corporations. That is not the case. It is the companies or countries are looking at import substitution to a certain extent. But this makes an interesting situation. Every country wants to export, and if nobody wants to import, of course, it is not sustainable, right? All of us know the system is going to break down. It can't happen. If everybody wants to consume local and export to others, become a big supplier to all others, and nobody wants to buy from outside, how will it sustain, right? So it's not going to be deglobalization. I don't think we have to worry about that. It is going to continue, but some things could change. How it could change? So, for example, one thing that could change is, of course, companies would evaluate, there will be globalization, but companies would evaluate balance of trade. Countries would evaluate balance of trade far more closely. It can't happen that I have interaction with another country, but all of that interaction is only import and nothing is export. So probably the relationships are going to become far more give and take, right? So the countries would say, okay, if you want to export something, if you want to import so much, you have to export so much. So that is what is going to be a new balance to come. But the trade is going to continue possibly, right? The other thing, so there will be much more give and take, as I said. Now, as a result of that, what happens? India, I think, stands to gain massively. We have a big demand center. We have a big supply chain within ourselves. We, of course, stand to gain much, much more. So the time coming forward, again, I would like to talk about positive stuff. I think time coming forward, India stands to gain a lot more as we move towards this import substitution or globalization, whatever we might want to call it, right? The other thing, what happens is, earlier there were some brands or categories which were bought just for origin. Swiss chocolates, Italian suits, right? These are bought just for origin. Possibly that might suffer a little bit, but it will be more, the brands would be bought for purpose that they stand for what they bring to the table, not just for origin, you know. And yes, there will be, of course, a flip. There will be, of course, a tailwind to local brands, which is expected to happen, but it is not going to be defined. When we say local, people are not going to compromise quality, especially in today's time. You know, consumer is becoming far, far more demanding. So I right now work in the restaurant industry. Some of the things which were earlier acceptable, the hygiene standards, for example, of the customer, have completely been redefined. People are not going to accept local just because it is local. They will still look for far, far higher quality. So the challenge is on the local corporations to come up to that quality. And that is the once in a lifetime challenge, once in a lifetime opportunity that this particular crisis, you know, brings to us, I think. So brands need to stand and deeply engage for a purpose that they stand for, and which is what consumers will possibly buy them. There are many, many opportunities that are coming up. I think there was no better time to learn the meaning of the phrase necessity is the mother of invention. I think today is the time when it is very, very relevant. Why do I say that? Almost every personal care company, pharma company, alcohol company is making sanitizers. Shoe companies are making PPEs. Automotive companies are making ventilators. You know, so this is what the innovation, the track change, the adaptability that we talked about is something that is becoming very, very important, very, very relevant. I think the amount of, so the new things or the innovation cycle, most of the big companies and most of our panelists work for big companies, our innovation cycles tend to be 12 months to 36 months, typically. You know, nothing comes to market before at least 10 to 12 months of work behind it, research is behind it, so on and so forth. But what I talked about, automotive companies making ventilators, shoe companies making PPEs, all of that has happened in a matter of 8 weeks, 10 weeks. So the speed of change is going to be massive. I think the speed of change is going to be very, very big. And the companies which will do things with the speed of change, with this flexibility, are the ones which are going to achieve on top. The other thing, I think, whenever there is a disruption,
Sanjay, last minute.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Whenever there is a big disruption, I think the consumer, we are companies, brands, and consumers, all of us are discovering this disruption together. Nobody has a head start. So I think it is becoming once again, a big normalization where the best, as I said, the most adaptable person, whether it is in their career, the most adaptable company, as well as the most adaptable brands that stand for what the consumer is looking for, are what are going to win. And that is what, as you know, as young budding marketeers, that is what we need to probably focus on at this point of time. So I'll close with that. Thanks. Much has been said already earlier, so I've tried to not repeat those. But thanks everyone for listening to me. Over, back to you, Subrat.
No, Sanjay, you just came down the track and you were the true Sehwag who came down late in the batting order, but you hit every ball out of the ground. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights over here. Now, what I'll be doing is that there are a series of questions. I will be playing the rapid fire round, and any one of you, whenever you feel comfortable, you can take, any one of you can take those questions. I will not be going to all of you because that is going to take a much longer time. And from my end, dear participants, what I'm also doing is I'm clubbing some of the questions because they are more or less in the same genre which is there. So there were a series of questions about skill sets. I think we have already heard from the panelists about that. The second, the broad theme of the question, which a lot of participants have asked, is about that, a lot of things will move from physical to digital, or they will be moving to the virtual medium, which is there. Now, sales traditionally has also been related to, that relationship building and relationship orientation, which is there. How is it going to change in the new normal?
Okay, so I'll just take this one because I belong to an industry which thrives on that. Paint cannot be, I should not say cannot be because everything can change, but typically is not bought online. And it is dependent on a set of influencers, which is like dealers, painters coming together, and consumer takes their help before finalizing the purchase. Now, in this new normal, as we will see, do I see a digital medium helping? Yes, for sure. Because today, consumer for information seeking will rely more heavily on digital medium. They will expect organization like Asian Paints to reach out to them remotely and help them select. For example, today they go to the dealer shops. A consumer goes to a dealer shops, selects the color they want their house to be painted, or painter gets them a shade card. So ideally, as a company, I should have a mechanism through which my trained consultant can help them out by giving them a remote consultation for the family, and they can choose the color that they want for their home. So definitely there's a lot of role that technology can play. Now that is where each one of us, and that is where I was coming from, the categorization, we need to slightly apply it in that context of that product and services as to where technology can bring it down, the context and whatever problem that can be solved by technology. Not everything can be solved by technology, but yes, there is a role that needs to be played by technology, and that's how each sector and each product needs to look at it.
Sure. Ridhima, coming next to you, what would be the three keywords you'd like to see on the CV of someone who's applying for an FMCG job?
Okay, so I have to say that I actually would say that stop thinking about keywords and don't think about what is it that a person is looking for, because if I give you 3 keywords, all the CVs that I receive will look exactly the same. So talk about, and this is how I always evaluate CVs. So I'll tell you, is your real self coming out, or are you trying to be what you believe is the recruiter looking for? So there will be people among us who are better at data. There will be people among us who are better at insight. There will be people among us who are better at ambiguity, and there are people among us who are better at scenario planning. So bring out your strengths, bring out what you have done and your passions. So, and I have to tell you this, if any mentor or any website is telling you put these 3 keywords on your CV, stop talking to them, you're wasting your time. So apologies for being a bit provocative, but please be yourself is my advice on CVs.
All right. Moving next to you, Animesh, since you also represent an industry where you have stakeholders across the different socio strata of the society, the different strata of the society, with a lot of virtual things being online, what are the key challenges you think that the marketers will face about the ease of converting them onto these platforms, or ease of making them move seamlessly or be proficient onto virtual medium which is there? So there was a specific question about, say, dealership. The shop floor guys who are over there. Do you think, since they are not that well educated, would it be possible, or what are companies doing to put them on the same page bracket as far as moving to this online thing? Sorry.
So I think in a way, I think this question to some extent has been answered by Abhishek in his comment. And I think I completely agree with the fact that everything is not going to be completely digital as per se. But my view is that it's a new term which I have learned from one of the automakers, which is called phygital, which says that the future will be a combination of physical and digital media. And depending on what is the product and uh, what kind of touch points the customer wants, you will decide that what things need to be staying in a physical contact and what has to move to digital. Of course, in the initial part, I think going forward, we will try to move more and more towards digital and reduce the touch points. But I think with things easing out, uh, we will actually come to a balance. That's my personal view. And coming to the question which is there on the dealers and in terms of upskilling the dealers, I have a personal opinion that Indians in general are very, very adaptive. You look at any manufacturing company, where do you go and set up your company? You will see nearer to the raw material, where the land is cheap. And generally you keep on training the people around you who are villagers, who are from the nearby areas, nearby community, and you train them, and they come to a level. So I don't yes, it will be tough, it's not going to be easy, and the companies will have to put in a lot of effort in training these guys. But my personal view is that they will come on board, they will learn, and that thing will move definitely.
Great. Sanjay, moving next, there is a question. I thought you only are the most competent amongst all the panelists to answer this question. And the question goes like that: in the present scenario, the Maslow's hierarchy is also expected to change. And if Maslow's hierarchy is going to change, how do you think marketers are going to align their strategy to this new change? Over to you, Sanjay.
Okay. Well, I'm not a big guy to change Maslow's hierarchy. Not big enough for that. But see, the relative importance, the relative importance of things, of course, can change and are changing, and it's possibly constantly changing. I'm sorry, Subrat, what was the second part of your question, sir?
So in this,
How do
say,
marketers?
how are the marketers going to realign themselves to this change scenario which is there?
So, I mean, it's one of the very basics of a job that a marketeer does, which is always to kind of look ahead of the curve, kind of look at what changes are coming, and then align themselves to that. So nothing changes as far as a marketeer's job is concerned. I don't think that changes. But if the marketeer's ears are close to the consumer, the ears are close to the ground, the ears are close to challenges on field, I think the smart ones will pick it up, and that is what will separate the really big and good corporations from the smaller ones. So the ones who pick up this are the ones who can make the best use of this opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. See, again, a lot of questions have been around, how are the placements going to be impacted? So let me take those questions myself. Dear kids, you will hate me saying this, but let's be honest about it. The placement scenario for the year is not going to be great. Let's accept the reality. At the same time, as all these panelists have said, we talked about revenge shopping and all those things. There was also a question about V-shape and a U-shape recovery, which is there. The fact of the matter is, sitting today, I don't think we have any ready answers as to whether it is going, what kind of recovery it is going to be. So in the short term, will it impact the B-school placement scenario? My answer is yes. What are the few industries which are going to, have a lesser of impact? On that note, Prapti, can I have the poll number 1? If you can have the poll number 1.
Sure.
I will not be surprised to see a skewed answer here.
Okay, can we have the results?
Yeah. So I think this is quite expected. As someone would think that hospitality and then aviation would take maximum time to recover, even if we, approach lockdown lifting partially, one phase at a time. So these kind of, I think, are the top contenders on students' minds.
Actually, I'm a bit surprised that manufacturing scores over retail currently.
That's true. But I think if I combine poll 1 and poll 2, the students and the participants have got the answer for themselves. On one hand, they said that which sector will see the maximum growth, and on the other hand, they have shared their views about which sectors will be taking the maximum amount of time to rebound. That gives you some perspective of how the placement season be shaping up. But I have one more sorry, go ahead.
Just on this point, I just wanted to tell the students here also that, see, these are all external factors. I know this is a big concern for all of you, and if I would have been in your position, I would have also felt the same way. But we can't do anything about the external factors. And if you go that path, it will only in long term impacting you. And I think most of the people who are in the panel, or let's say who have passed out of colleges between, let's say 2000 to 2010, also have seen two such cycles. But things get better, and the people who go through this phase, they are the things which even Ridhima, Abhishek, Sanjay, everybody was saying in terms of using the time which is available to upskilling yourself. It will always play a role. Things are not going to be like this always, and it's a lot of time the opportunities will not come back. So just don't go that path, otherwise it will always impact you.
Yeah, and if I can, sorry, just add to that, Subrat, before you move on to the next, because I think this is on everyone's mind. There's also the other end of what Sanjay and everyone was saying of being adaptable. So if you are in that position where you don't know if you're getting a summer internship, go to your local business, go to a startup, go to a family member that you know, because these summer internships, yes, I can't deny that they are about the CV, but it's also, this is the time when you show how do you take a challenge and then turn it into an opportunity. So the value that you will be able to add in a small business will be tremendously higher than the value that that small business adds to your CV. And the learning that you will have will be so much more. So think about who you know who's doing a business or who could use your help, and ask them to give you 2 months of work experience. So use this use this chance to also demonstrate on your CV, since that was one of the questions, that you can take a problem and turn it into and solve that problem on your own.
Absolutely.
So I'll also add one thing, that a crisis doesn't mean that companies stop investing or companies stop investing, planning for their future. It's not a short-term game that every, at least medium to large size organization plays. All the long-term strategies are made with at least a 5-year to 10-year kind of a horizon. And obviously many things can change within that, but organization keeps on adapting to it. But a larger vision is definitely there for a 5 to 10-year kind of a window. Now that doesn't change. And yes, what changes because of the crisis is whether some of the future plans gets postponed by 2 years, by 1 year in some companies' case. So that is what it happens. So it means that first of all, I agree to Animesh that you can't do much if in the next placement cycle, not many companies come to the campus. It's not really something you can do. What you can do is that nail that one interview that you get and be ready for that. That is point number one. Second, if you really want to track, try to maybe check up on the annual reports of the organizations, at least the bigger ones, to see what they are up to. And many organizations actually spell out their newer areas, which you will never hear about in the media reports and the news reports. That is where actually a lot of new stuff that they are doing, they touch upon very, very briefly. If for at least some of the companies in some sectors you are not sure of, you can always refer to that in the coming months and get a sense of how things are in some of the large organizations.
See, again, there are a couple of questions which are very specific in nature. It is about that my SIP with one of the organizations of the panelists. It was supposed to happen, but I have not heard. What should I take? Dear participants, I must submit once again humbly that these things have to be taken at the appropriate platform. And the panelists over here are not the right people to answer to those questions. Please take them up, and all the companies are responsive enough, I'm pretty sure, to get back to you and answer your queries. Animesh, I will come to you next, and that is the first one, and I will be coming to each of the four panelists. It is a slightly provocative question, but in one sentence, what would be your advice to the B school professors in this time to make their students ready? The B school faculty, if they have to make their students ready, what would be that one sentence advice which you will give?
That's a very difficult question you have asked me. But I think a lot of more stress on the cases, which is there, which gives you some live example apart from the theory aspect which we learn. And the cases always can come up with the new cases which are coming with present business situations. If you can add on more of those things, it will really help. It's more about creating a platform where the students can think, debate, and look at new ideas and learn from that. That is a very, very important aspect which people need to work on in the current scenario to build that skill. And I think maybe earlier you could have done well with just the bookish knowledge also and learned it over a period of time when you come on the job. But I think now it's a good time to have a more focus on the newer cases which are there and the challenges, or the live cases also, if some of the companies are coming up to B schools and trying to solve the live problems which they are facing in terms of getting the mind of the youngsters. I think that's a great opportunity for people, and they should look at taking on such challenges even more.
Sanjay, before I move to you, Animesh and Ridhima, I am happy to share one thing. You know, what People Labs has done in the last 40 days, that seeing that a lot of B school students were impacted by all this COVID thing, we have taken 15 interns from different B schools. We have taken them on board. And the entire endeavor is to give them some practical learning. And at the same time, for each one of them, a mandatory component of their summer internship is that they have to outline an area where they will upskill themselves. And they have to report every week what are they doing on that.
That's absolutely fantastic.
And Animesh, one idea again which People Labs is working upon is to make the cases more relevant. We are in touch with industry leaders like you and few others. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to create a bouquet of cases, all in the form of audiovisual, none of them more than 40 minutes, based on the live problems which have happened in an Indian company within the last 2 years. And we plan to launch that bouquet of cases in maybe coming 45 days to 60 days to make the learning more relevant and contemporary. This is another thing which People Labs is working upon. Sanjay, I come to you.
Great.
Yeah. You're not audible.
Sanjay,
I had gone on mute. Yeah. So I think, so one thing, of course, the professors at these schools can do, I think there's a lot of anxiety right now in everybody's mind, right? So not just academically, I would request the professors, because professors are mentors, they are ideals that students look up to. I think professors should also help the students emotionally. They need a lot of hand holding. They would need somebody who can tell them what the reality today is, but the reality tomorrow is going to be far, far better. And I think I would request the professors to also focus on that aspect. Of course, they are masters of teaching academics, and I'm nobody who can tell them. But at this point of time, I think students need a lot more hand holding, a lot more personal touch, and a lot more emotional, possibly support. So that is one thing I think that they can do. Animesh already talked about importance of cases becoming far, far higher.
So
And
Sanjay,
I think,
we'll take only one idea. I'm so sorry, but
yeah,
I just
okay.
have to
So I've
respect
just
that.
that's fine. That's fine. Great.
Right.
Let's move.
Abhishek.
I'll add 2 points, if you allow me, Subrat. One is I'll request based on so I'm sure all the professor, as Sanjay said, academics. I think we are no one to tell them what to teach, but I think a lot more industry exposure, whatever that they can get, getting people on the campus and sharing what real world problems are being, how they are being solved, and how the industry works in real way, practical way. I think that will definitely expose students to reality. Second is that, and it comes from a personal experience of last placement cycle where I was in a campus taking an interview, and there was this girl who all the sales related questions that I threw at her, she was bang on, and it was so impressive that I have never come across anyone like her before. That how can it someone, a fresher, knows so much about sales and marketing, distribution structure and all. And then when I asked her, then I realized that one of the courses that she's gone through, the professor has forced her and the entire class to actually spend 1 day, with the territory sales officer, the local sales officer who goes to the grocery shops and on his beat. And similarly, 1 day with the shopkeeper in itself, as to how the product is actually getting sold. And that those 2 days itself created such a impact on that individual that she stood out from everyone else. I think all of the students will need to take that proactive measure for their own learning. I know we have been through the same grind. We might not have done that, but I think today's competitive world requires that.
Sure. Ridhima, before I come to you, I must tell the attendees over here that, we have many industry leaders, but there are people who can still pull their ears, and all of us were witness to that. Over to you, Ridhima.
So again, I think it's a difficult question because I still, whenever I go back to campus, I look at professors as my own mentors, even if they are not my professors. So I think the question should be the other way around. But just reflecting on what everyone has said. So first, absolutely agree that it should be much more emphasis on practical learning. Just the other one, which I think from my experience of the learning that I've remembered compared to what I found it difficult to remember after so many years, is when professors ask students to participate and share their view. So there is something that's written in Kotler and Byron Sharp, and then there is students sharing their view on that and doing what Abhishek was probably saying, critical thinking on that, is what helps people understand and learn better. So that's something that I think can happen much more in our MBA colleges. So that would be my one advice.
Sure. I think it is 8:20 p.m. IST. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the 4 panelists from different parts of the world who took their time out and joined us on a Saturday evening, afternoon. And thanks to all the attendees who were there. We sincerely believe that we have been able to address some of your queries, and the points shared by the amazing panelists, they did quite a lot of value add to your some set of questions which you might have had. We will continue with this webinar series the next week. As I shared with you, we are coming up with the stories of the 2009 batch who went through the same placement grind as yours, and some success stories as to how they survived in those times. Once again, if I look at the present participant number 103, at times we have touched 200 plus. I think that's a great, testimony of the amazing wisdom shared by all the 4 panelists. For everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be concluding the session now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you and all the best, everyone.
Thanks, Subrat. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
All the best,
Stay safe.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.